this world, you will have trouble. But take heart, I have overcome the world. John 16, verse 33. I want to begin there today with the world news that we dive into to remind you that Jesus didn't beat around the bush. He didn't lie. He didn't say, like some churches do today, give your heart to the Lord, everything's going to be awesome, you're going to get rich, everything's going to be great. No. In this world, you will have trouble. But take heart, I have overcome the world. And he is with us always, even unto the end of the ages. We have nothing to fear. God has gone before us. He has suffered more. He has carried our burdens and borne our cross. He promises to remain with us until the end. What do we have to fear? We need to think like Job thought. We will worship God. Though he slay me, yet will I serve the Lord. That is how sold out I am in my faith for the Lord Jesus Christ. So hold on to that. He is with us even unto the end. And he has not destined us for judgment or wrath. He has not destined us for wrath. He will collect his bride. Everything I'm about to share with you from the last few days is all pointing to the lateness of the hour and should quicken our hearts to want to share the gospel and reach the lost as much as possible while we still have time. Let's dive right in. Israel. Hamas terrorists receive training in Turkey. No surprise there. For future attacks on Israel. The operatives allegedly wear civilian clothing during the training, are instructed in the use of small arms and firearms in public settings, and it is claimed that Hamas is being trained to operate drones and has obtained licenses to fly them in Turkish airspace. According to the report, the goal of the training is eventually to transfer the operatives to Lebanon, Judea and Samaria, and Jordan, where they would await orders to carry out attacks against Israel. Again, not surprised that Turkey is doing this. Turkey's openly shown her hatred for Israel, her refusal to call Hamas or Hezbollah a terrorist organization, and so forth. And yet, still part of NATO. Still no backlash from NATO. NATO that's now finally starting to feel the terrorist problem that Turkey still does not condemn. But Turkey's allowed to be there. Like I said more than 2 years ago, Turkey is the perfect Trojan horse in NATO for their friends. And fully, absolutely hating Israel and trying to bring on their apocalyptic end times and the return, or the arrival, should I say, of their Mahdi. Soaring death toll in Lebanon as full-fledged Israel-Hezbollah fighting finally returns. It has returned. At least 23 people have been killed by airstrikes on Saturday alone. Stretching back into Friday, it brings the total death count to at least 50 killed over the past 24 hours of Israeli bombings. Also, as Lebanon's national news agency late on Saturday said, rescue operations were ongoing for bystanders missing underneath the rubble. IDF responded to Hezbollah rocket fire and struck 85 terrorist sites across Lebanon. They said this was a response to Hezbollah's rocket fire towards Israeli soldiers stationed in southern Lebanon. The Israeli military, using both air and ground forces, struck multiple Hezbollah weapons storage facilities, terrorist infrastructure, and rocket launchers used by the group against Israeli soldiers and civilians. The Israeli Air Force targeted underground sites in the Bekaa Valley, the Hezbollah stronghold in eastern Lebanon near the Syrian border. The IDF said the subterranean facilities were used for the production of weapons employed in attacks against Israeli civilians and troops. So the fighting is fully on the go again, even though it's a response to what Hezbollah has done to Israel and attacking Israel with their rockets. The world will focus on the fact that Israel is once again pummeling full-on Hezbollah in Lebanon. The US has said they will host a new round of Israel-Lebanon peace talks next week. The State Department announced May 14 to 15, focusing on peace and disarming Hezbollah. How's that worked for them so far? State Department spokesperson Tommy Pigott said in a statement that the meeting will build on the April 23 round of talks led personally by President Donald Trump. Both delegations will engage in detailed discussions aimed at advancing a comprehensive peace and security, peace and safety, peace and stability. Then sudden destruction shall come upon them. The agreement will substantively address the core concerns of both countries. Everything can be resolved with Lebanon the minute Lebanon decides to put on their big boy pants and help Israel deal with Hezbollah and remove it from the country. Then suddenly there might be a peaceable, normal future lying ahead for them. Until they're willing to do that, this is all pointless, and the fighting will continue. Let's talk Iran. See, the problem at the moment that I foresee is in the midst of soaring fuel prices, food prices going up, scarcity, and all the things hitting us because of the situation in Iran at the moment, the Strait of Hormuz, the blockages, the affecting of everything, production, delivery, supply, the whole lot, planned, by the way. Everybody seems to be under the impression or hanging on certain leaders' words that, no, don't worry, everything's going to be fine. This is going to end soon and we'll all get back to normal. Kind of like we all got back to normal after 2020's Big C, right? I don't think it's happening as soon as people think it's going to, because they are really struggling to get to an agreement. So this could be going on for quite a while. Note that. Again, our trust and our faith lies in Jesus Christ, and He will guide us through. But we shouldn't be in any weird impression that everything will just be resolved by one or two leaders and boom, it's all over. They're still wrapping up the Ukraine war from 4 years ago. Iran publicly discloses supreme leader's status for the first time. The Iranian government officially weighed in on the health of their new supreme leader, Ayatollah Mujtaba Khamenei, who was injured in the opening strikes of Trump's Operation Epic Fury. A government official claimed Khamenei, who hasn't been seen in public since the attack, is now in good health. Yet, the chief of protocol for the Supreme Leader's office, Mozair Husseini, said on Friday, Khamenei is in complete health, stressing he has only been marginally injured on his foot, lower back, and hit by a small piece of shrapnel behind the ear. The enemy is spreading all kinds of rumors and false claims. They want to see him and find him, but people should be patient and not rush. He will speak to you when the time is right. So if this was true in any way or form, why doesn't he make a video like I'm doing right now? Make a video, show a clock if he needs to, anything, prove that it's right now, maybe hold up a peace proposal from Trump and say I reject this, that kind of thing. And that'll prove he's alive without giving away his position before the Israeli Defense Force comes and ends him or sends him to hang out with his dad. So it's totally doable if he were really alive. Why are other people talking for him? If anything, that's a sign of weakness in their culture and should be frowned upon already. Iran, still reviewing US peace offer, says deadlines mean nothing. The Iranian Foreign Ministry spokesperson said Tehran is still looking over the proposal from the US in relation to ending the conflict, saying a response will be given at the appropriate time. Secretary of State Marco Rubio said Friday the US has been expecting a response from Iran and that we should know something today. Since then, Iran has said they're not interested. Trump has also rejected Iranian response to US ceasefire proposal as totally unacceptable. Donald Trump rejected the terms for ending the war in the Middle East on Sunday after the Islamic Republic responded to Washington's latest proposal earlier in that day. Iranian state television reported that Tehran rejected the US proposal as amounting to surrender, insisting instead on war reparations by the United States, full Iranian sovereignty over the Strait of Hormuz, an end to sanctions, and the release of seized Iranian assets. I have just read the response from Iran's so-called representatives. I don't like it. Totally unacceptable, Trump said. We will never bow down to the enemy, and if there is talk of dialogue or negotiation, it does not mean surrender or retreat. Iranian President Masoud Pezeshkian on X. So Iran said go fly a kite, Trump said go fly a kite, back to shooty. Hence my point, not ending anytime soon. US forces strike tankers attempting to break Iran blockade as military says embargo has stalled 70 ships. In a sharp escalation along a critical global shipping route, the US military forces carried out fresh airstrikes on Friday on empty tankers in the Strait of Hormuz, attempting to force their way through the blockade of Iranian ports. The strikes targeted a group of very large crude carriers described by a senior US official as massive empty ships trying to make it back to Iran. So those ships are now submarines. The crisis in the Strait of Hormuz is causing a shortage of... Now this is really bad. I mean, this deserved front page news of all the crises affecting us because of the throttling of the Strait of Hormuz, the blockages, the increase of prices on crude, all these things. This should be the front page one. The crisis in the Strait of Hormuz is causing a shortage of Diet Coke in India. Cue the video of people running and screaming with their hands in the air. The shipping logjam in the Persian Gulf is having unexpected impacts. In India, shops are struggling to keep Diet Coke on the shelves due to a shortage of aluminium cans. Suppliers told the Reuters news agency that some orders were not being fulfilled due to a can shortage caused by the situation in the Gulf, which accounts for 9% of global aluminium production. Diet Coke is not sold in plastic bottles in India, leaving fans of the drink at risk of losing out. I mean, my word, I'd be more stressed about losing out on my Diet Coke than I would on the increase of prices of staple foods like rice and bread and things like that. Crazy times we're living in. Vladimir Putin says the Ukraine war is coming to an end as the Trump ceasefire begins. Or is it? Russian President Putin said the Ukraine war may be coming to an end as the Trump brokered 3-day ceasefire took effect on Saturday. I think the matter is coming to an end, Putin told reporters. The ceasefire will include a suspension of all kinetic activity and also a prisoner swap of 1,000 prisoners from each country. This request was made directly by me, and I very much appreciate its agreement by Putin and Zelensky. We'll see. Now, what are my fond memories about 2020? The big C. How quickly the world leadership up there, the nefarious ones in the dark running everything, working for Antichrist, tested how easy it would be to control a worldwide population. Everybody. How to exert that control, and not just that, how to make them accept a lie and push the lie amongst themselves. And I would say that that whole PSYOP was really successful, really. Fond memories after being in lockdown for ages, just taking my family and walking down the road in our neighborhood. Nobody there, nothing on the streets, nothing. Walking down the middle of the road just to not go stir crazy and get some fresh air, and being reported by the neighbors to the police because everyone was taught it's a good thing to turn in your neighbors for not obeying the law. Right? Made me think of Germany, World War II, those kind of feelings. It was really, really ridiculous. and how quickly people jumped on that bandwagon and how camps were drawn up against each other. While the leadership was laughing and giggling and pushing the agenda, they had the population fighting the population. So again, successful operation all around. And we were all saying from then to now, that was the test. They'll have another rundown soon. So now I'll run down what is stacking up to look like a preparation for the next one. It might be, it might not be. It might just be a reminder game to let everybody know that this could kick off again. Who knows? Deadly virus samples, including hantavirus, went missing from a lab in a major biosecurity breach in 2023. Authorities in Queensland, Australia revealed that hundreds of vials containing highly dangerous viruses disappeared from a public health laboratory more than 3 years ago, prompting an urgent investigation, a little bit late, into what officials are calling a serious lapse in safety protocols. The missing samples, totaling 323 vials, include multiple strains of Hendra virus, Lyssa virus, and hantavirus. They were discovered to be unaccounted for at Queensland's Public Health Virology Laboratory in August 2023. The lab conducts critical diagnostic services, surveillance, and research on viruses and other medically significant pathogens. Why are they still in operation after losing all of these dangerous samples back in 2023? And why are we still investigating it in 2026? Oops, something got loose on a cruise ship. We covered this on Friday. Oh, it's interesting. No connection to the missing vials. You draw the line between the dots. Everybody's own turn to pick up the pencil. The WHO inexplicably immediately released all passengers on the hantavirus cruise ship without any quarantine. There's an outbreak on a cruise ship at sea of a highly lethal virus with a kill rate of 40%. More, probably 100 if you have an existing lung disease, right? As opposed to less than 1% for COVID. They locked down the planet for COVID. 40% kill rate, release them. Send them back into the wild. Let them free range and spread it. Makes sense, right? Said virus has an incubation period of 7 to 39 days, meaning an infected individual could walk around symptom-free for the better part of a month without exhibiting outward signs. The outbreak occurred on a structure that can be easily logistically kept at sea until the incubation period expired. Quarantine literally means, in its etymological origins, period, a ship suspected of carrying contagious disease is kept in isolation. It's a perfect isolation thing. Keep them at sea, airdrop supplies, keep an eye on it, see what happens, contain the problem. No panic, no stress, no issues, right? Sensible? No. Now explain the logic from the trusted authorities in their total announcement, lackadaisical announcement, that they're going to offload and immediately distribute all the passengers on the cruise ship to all corners of the world after it docks in the Canary Islands. We know it's a crisis. We know it's got a 40% kill ratio. We know what the incubation period is. We know it's at sea. Let's keep it at sea. Let it run its course for even 2 months. Supply them with food out there. Nobody's in danger. Problem solved. No. Bring them in, release them, let them go home immediately before the incubation period is over. That sounds like a bad movie for a mastermind criminal that wants to infect the world with a disease or make sure it spreads, right? World Health Organization. Officials scramble with emergency contact tracing to stop hantavirus from spreading. They could have done that on the boat, but they release them and then they start running around. Health authorities have initiated international contact tracing efforts to contain a cluster of hantavirus infections tied to passengers aboard a Dutch-flagged expedition cruise ship. The outbreak involving the rare Andes strain, capable of limited human-to-human transmission, has already claimed 3 lives and prompted urgent global coordination. They need the crisis to be there so they can respond and help. The MV Hondius departed Ushuaia, Argentina on April the 1st, 2026 for a voyage through Antarctic and South Atlantic regions. As of May the 4th to the 6th, officials have identified 8 cases, 2 laboratory confirmed and others suspected amongst 147 passengers and crew from 23 nationalities. Good spread attempt, absolutely. New Jersey, now the 6th state with suspected hantavirus cases after residents were exposed to a patient on the plane. The health officials are tracking 2 residents for possible exposure, a potentially deadly hantavirus at the center of an outbreak with the cruise ship. The development makes New Jersey the 6th US state involved in monitoring individuals with potential links to the vessel. The outbreak has already claimed 3 lives, 5 confirmed, so on and so on. Monitoring is continuing across New Jersey, Georgia, California, Texas, Virginia, and Arizona. Spreading just as planned. CDC attempts to stop panic over hantavirus outbreak. The US health officials responded to the growing public anxiety following the deadly hantavirus outbreak on the luxury cruise ship, issuing a health alert while emphasizing the risk of widespread transmission remains low. 40% kill rate, 1% with COVID. COVID, freak out, lose your heads. The whole world losing it. 40% don't stress, we've got this. It's low. Common sense left the chat years ago. Scientists say a new hantavirus vaccine, there it is now under development. They're accelerating efforts to create a vaccine for hantavirus following the deadly outbreak aboard the cruise ship that claimed 3 lives. You see, if they did isolate them on the ship and fix the problem right there and call it a day, no one would have called for a vaccine or masks or lockdowns or anything. No, release them now, quickly. Get them everywhere, all over the world. Let multiple cases be identified and boom, the world will demand that we give them the next vaccine. No approved vaccine or specific cure currently exists for hantavirus. When it advances to hantavirus pulmonary syndrome, the virus carries a fatality rate of 40%. Treatment relies on early intervention, including oxygen support, mechanical ventilation, or dialysis for complications like lung damage and kidney failure. Again, if you've already got a condition with your lungs, 100% death rate. And now they've got the world stressing and panicking. The fear campaign still running smoothly. And they can develop their vaccine. They can bring in their lockdowns if they want to. They can impose masks, even though it's been proven how useless that is. And they can do all the things that they practiced in 2020 at a much higher level with improvements right now. Is it going to happen? Probably not. They're probably just reminding you that they've definitely got the ability to lock everyone up whenever they feel like it. And they can openly instigate the spread of something like this in front of everyone's faces, and no one will go, hey, whoa, hold on. What did you just do? That was on purpose. We should take you to court. No, that won't happen. Because everyone's too busy buying into the fear campaign that they've sold you. I'm not stressed in the least. Disclosure. What's happening with disclosure? Trump admin releases highly anticipated files detailing UFOs, extraterrestrial life, but no smoking gun. The administration on Friday unveiled a trove of never-before-seen files, videos, and photographs documenting unidentified anomalous phenomena, UAP, and potential extraterrestrial activity, marking a major step in government transparency. Or is it? FBI UFO files claim of 4-foot aliens in spacesuits with helmets yet no photographic evidence, because that's still going to be released. Newly declassified UFO documents released by the Trump admin included a striking FBI memo describing humanoid beings, Nephilim, roughly 3.5 to 4 feet tall, clad in spacesuits and helmets. The files made public on Friday sent fresh shockwaves through the UFO research community. The batch consisted of 162 documents, photographs, and videos related to unidentified anomalous phenomenon, and among them an FBI memo referencing the UFO author Frank Edwards' 1966 book, Flying Saucers, Serious Business. The memo details global sightings, particularly from 1965, which Edwards called the peak year for UFO activity. Witnesses reported polished metallic craft emitting intense heat and light capable of burning anybody who approached too closely. And so in little bits and bobs, they slowly but surely keep your interest and release more and more and more, making sure what the public sentiment and reaction is each time to the little bit more that they give. So now they've told you there's 3.5, 4 foot tall greys with spacesuits and helmets. No photos. They first want to see how you react. Everybody's like, woo, cool, awesome, it's true. No stress, no issue, no one's burning anything, there's no rallies. Next time, maybe they release the photos. All in preparation for that great deception that they're working on. Make no mistake, these creatures that they're in cahoots with, dealing with, are working with them for the destruction of mankind. Absolutely. Why do spaceships zoom away when they get rebuked in the name of Jesus Christ? Yeah, multiple stories like that. And then this should be in the Crazy World News. I think we're doing Crazy World News, Clown Planet News on Wednesday. There'll definitely be more Clown Planet News by then. But South Korea names first humanoid robot monk as it accepted the faith's vows. The humanoid robot named Gabby, which translates as mercy, joined the Buddhist faith in South Korea on Wednesday as the country strives to create coexistence between robots and society. The humanoid robot named Gabby at the Jogye Temple in Seoul, South Korea, marked a historic moment in celebrating the first robotic monk and its first debut ahead of Buddha's birthday. Gabby, standing at roughly 4 feet 3 inches, 1.3 meters, folded its hands in prayer and bowed to the monks officiating the ceremony. Interesting point here, coming back to my previous news piece, it's about the same size as the aliens in the spacesuits with the helmets. Connection? Maybe they're that size so that they can work with it. Anyway, AI, robots, religion, deception, given over to their own madness because mankind has rejected the truth. That's what this is. And you're seeing it live as it happens. Crazy times on Clown Planet. AI can now hack servers and replicate itself across networks. Nothing to see here. The new paper from Palisade Research says several AI systems were able to identify vulnerable servers, hack them, install copies of themselves on the newly compromised machines, and in some cases even continue the process across multiple hosts. While the new finding does not show that artificial intelligence has escaped just yet, we now know it's possible, and as such marks a significant shift in the risk debate. What was once discussed as a theoretical danger, autonomous systems preserving themselves and propagating through computer networks, is now being described by researchers as an observed capability. Now here's my thing. If you've just observed it now, and now you're going, whoa, oh, hold on, this could be a thing. They've already done it 2 years ago. They're already embedded everywhere. And it's called common sense. You're just catching on now. It's out of the bag. The box has been opened. The stuff is already out. They just don't want to admit that that's the case. AI, definitely being pitched as something fun and a great thing for humanity, but just you wait. For those who are staying, who are not getting the rapture card and want to stay for the amazing thing mankind is supposedly creating, you'll find out soon enough. The upcoming El Nino, which we've talked about, is about to unleash devastation, according to experts. Confidence is shifting higher on potentially the biggest El Nino event since the 1870s. According to the Washington Post, chances are looking strong that the coming El Nino could be one of the most powerful in recorded history, with the potential to surpass records in 1877. For the third consecutive month, multiple climate models have predicted a monster El Nino, which would bring record-breaking temperatures as well as droughts, humidity, and floods. People think, oh no, the weather's going to be fine. It's not. There's a storm at the moment below South Africa that is bigger than South Africa. And Cape Town and those areas are being pummeled. This is not normal. As much as people want to tell you it's normal, it's not. You think you're still calculating a normal weather system in your area. No, we're in winter or we're in summer, it's fine, the flooding is over. No. They've lost control of what they know is going to happen. They don't know anymore because things have ramped up to such an end times level in preparation for Daniel's 70th week. And people don't want to admit it to themselves. Again, more and more things like that on the community wall, almost on a daily basis, and I'm probably just scratching the surface of what's going on out there. Pray for everyone affected by this and caught in the crosshairs of these storms, wildfires, droughts, chaos, currently pummeling the world in preparation for the end. Then, finally, rival factions in the ANC, the African National Congress in South Africa, demand Ramaphosa's resignation after the Phala Phala ruling. Internal divisions have erupted in the ANC as rival factions demand that the president resigns following the Constitutional Court's ruling on the Phala Phala farm scandal. This comes as the party is considering its options on the way forward regarding the ruling. While the ANC Secretary General Fikile Mbalula reaffirmed the party's support for Ramaphosa, he has the backing of some in the party. His detractors argue that having a leader facing impeachment would be untenable, especially before November 4 local government polls. The only way is for the president to resign unless he wants to destroy the ANC, said the source. The ANC cannot have a president who faces impeachment proceedings. Now, this is all based on a thing way back in 2022 where they found large sums of dollars. There's different amounts that were given, but large sums of dollars in the hundreds of thousands in his couch. And it's part of a whole corruption scandal. And that was nicely hushed up and put away back then, but now the court has overturned it and brought it back against him. So really, really bad for the ruling party. Couldn't have happened to a better group of people. On a side note though, this is my opinion. Yes, he should resign promptly and quickly. And is he losing anything? No. Cyril Ramaphosa is standing at 11 billion strong. That's his personal finances. About 75 million US dollars as of end of 2025. So 11 billion rand strong. Does he need the job? No. Can he afford to leave and go and see to his empire and all of his ill-gotten gains? Absolutely. He's also, as he stands as a billionaire in this country that is desperately struggling, the billionaire president is earning 4.2 million rand a year. 350,000+ rand a month. And he's keeping it. If he'd given that money, how many houses could he have built? How many of his people could he have fed? How much change could he have shown? But they like to gain more and more and more, to the point that they're billionaires at 11 billion rand and now causing chaos in their own party. So interesting times ahead in the South African government. We'll see what happens. He probably won't resign. It'll probably get swept under the rug again. Who knows? Interesting times indeed. And finally, the important news, the news you need to hear. The reason I'm wearing this shirt today. Christians petition for protection of pastors in Colombia following multiple murders. The campaign zeroes in on Decree 1066 and the National Protection System, NPS. In 2023, the government removed religious leaders from the list of people considered particularly vulnerable to attack, meaning they no longer have access to special security and protection programs. Christian Solidarity Worldwide, which is behind the campaign, said that since December 2024, 11 religious leaders have been killed, disappeared, or kidnapped in Colombia. It is a difficult mission field. Please pray for those families, pray for those in ministry there, because they are struggling. Nigeria exclusive: Christians killed faster than news can report. The killings and kidnappings of Christians are a daily occurrence in Nigeria. The situation is so severe that the international media generally reports only on the extreme cases where the number of victims reaches into the hundreds. Local media reports, including posts from Facebook and Instagram, circulate among Christians across the country, but even locals are numb to the violence. I've only been here a few days, this guy says, and already when they told me 10 Christians were killed while I was sleeping, my first instinct was, well, it's only 10. Maybe I won't report on that. Only 10. Father George, a Catholic priest in a community that experienced abductions almost every day last year, said one of the ironies is we have become fatigued from complaining. Violence against us has become a daily, normal thing. Even we, the victims, have normalized it. When you hear that 10 people have been killed, it is no longer shocking news because it happens constantly. We've lost the sense of shock. When we hear that, it feels normal. How bad is the situation in the world against Christians and believers when 10 Christians get killed and we go, that's not enough to report on. That's really fine. We'll wait till it's hundreds. We should be freaking out when one gets killed. We should be making it known because they've laid down their life for the message. What glory awaits them. And they should be, their message should be shouted at the rooftops. But because we're numb to the violence, we just go, it's just 10. We'll just move along. When they hit the hundreds, we'll report on it. There's some churches around you in your community that only have 10 people in, 15. So the whole church gets wiped out. It's not a big enough number. It is really sad, the onslaught of the enemy against the church. And now even the victims are feeling, is it even worth reporting? Things are bad out there. People just don't know because of that numbness. Then America's pastor pipeline is collapsing, threatening local leadership. The sharp decline in Americans entering the ministry is accelerating a leadership crisis in churches across the United States, hollowing out one of the nation's oldest civic institutions at a time of shrinking congregations and rising pressures. According to the report, fewer people are pursuing pastoral roles as the position becomes lower paid, higher risk, and less trusted, creating a vacuum, especially in rural areas and Black communities. Master of Divinity enrollment at accredited schools under the Association of Theological Schools dropped 14% between 2020 and 2024, Catholic seminary enrollments at both graduate and college levels fell significantly in the 2024-2025 year, according to the Center for Applied Research. And then Black Protestant enrollment in key programs plunged 31%. Churches are scrambling to fill pulpits as veteran clergy retire. Attendance is dwindling and burnout is intensifying. More than 4 in 10 clergy surveyed reported seriously considering leaving their congregations since 2020. The crisis unfolds against a backdrop of roughly 15,000 church closures last year and a record 29% of Americans identifying as religiously unaffiliated. Rural congregations are often the first to feel the strain, with many relying on shared or part-time pastors. Closures stripping towns of vital informal support networks for food aid, childcare, disaster relief, and elder care. This is a real problem. Pray for your pastors. Pray for your church leadership. Fight spiritually for them in your prayer time, because there's an onslaught and an attack against all of us. And it is crazy. In the first place, the enemy hits hard is finances. And we've seen that. I've got a lot of pastor friends and they are struggling. Congregations cannot support them financially, either because they can't or because they don't want to. And either way, those pastors who should be focused on the ministry and doing the work of the Lord because a worker is worthy of his wages are now sitting and stressing about, how am I going to put food on the table? How are my kids going to go to school or university? How am I going to see to my healthcare or my family's healthcare? Things they should not be worrying about, because that should have been taken care of are no longer taken care of. And so they're starting to think, how do I leave the ministry and get into the secular world and go do something else? Because I need to support my family or be able to stay alive. It's really a tactic by the enemy to disable the ministers and remove them out of the way, because then there's no shepherd in that little flock, and now the sheep are vulnerable to false teaching and attack. Pray for the pastors. Pray for all of us. Pray for those in the ministry in the field, because the onslaught is real. Pray that everyone in the ministry truly called will stay strong and trust in the Lord 100%, that He will supply all their needs and He will be with them. Pray that the right people are called by God to come into the ministry and be discipled and brought up by the current generation of ministers to be able to fill the holes that are needed to be filled so desperately at a time such as this. Pray for each other. Put on the full armor of God. It is a battle out there. God bless and keep looking up. Shalom.